Yeah, buzz YouTube, what's up? How's it going, everybody? So only have for y'all today a Wi-Fi battle. Hope y'all do not mind. Although tomorrow I should have a live up with another Wi-Fi battle, and this was a pretty crazy UU battle, as you guys will come to find out. So I am using another one of the new mons that recently dropped to UU in the form of Gengar, and I was actually pretty excited when Gengar dropped. I remember using it before I moved up to OU, and it was an absolute blast trying it out. Unfortunately though, now in UU, Alolan Muck has become very popular, so going into this matchup, unless I get rid of that Muck, there's not really too much that my Gengar is going to be doing. So if you guys do enjoy the battle, make sure to hit that like button down below and answer the comment question of the day, which will also be after the battle. So thank you to everybody who's been liking and answering the question of the day, showing off your support. So I ended up leading off with my Amoonguss, as he ended up leading off with the Latios. Turn 1, I could have definitely taken any one hit this Latios wanted to go for, but part of me felt like he would try to switch out here, so I'm not sure why he really risked me going straight for the Spore turn 1, but I guess me being forced out did kind of make sense because I do need my Amoonguss for the Primarina in the back. As this turn I'm gonna double out, expecting him to bring in the Scizor, because Scizor is really his best switch into my Azumarill. Also, he could have potentially tried to bring in his own Seismitoad, and if he did do that, then that would allow me to Toxic him. As he goes for the Swords Dance, this man has used his first 2 turns to go straight for setup, and this is a little bit of an issue because now that I know the Latios and the Scizor are both set up, that means late game they both can be a giant issue. So I do go for the Scald here in hopes that maybe I could fish for a burn. Even if I didn't, I would still be able to kind of chip him down a little bit, as he does get off the +2 U-turn on my Seismitoad. Doesn't do entirely too much damage, which means that most likely is a defensive Scizor. So that means it's not going to be hitting as hard as it would be, so that could be really good for me later in this match. And I'm interested to see how Seismitoad is going to be in UU now that Rotom Wash has moved up to OU again. Like, Toad only really has, I think, 2 things over Swampert in the tier. It gets Knockoff and it gets Refresh, which is pretty cool. Like, Knockoff in general is a very handy move to have, but I wonder how Toad is going to be. It may actually drop in usage now, and we'll probably be seeing a lot more Swamperts in the tiers. So I ended up bringing in my Amoonguss there on the Psychic, and then I switched back into my Azumarill, which is Assault Vested. The main reason I brought in my Amoonguss before Primarina was because thanks to Regenerator, I didn't really lose too much HP there, and after going for the knockoff this turn as he switches into the Toad, I can switch directly back into my Amoonguss, gain back my HP once I switch back out. Also, he has no Grass type, and his Gliscor has not activated its Toxic Orb, so this is pretty much a free Spore for me. Like, I don't really mind what he wants to let me put to sleep. Whatever gets put to sleep is going to be practically nullified and no longer be a nuisance or a threat to my team. So he does actually let me put this Muck to sleep, which is really good because, as I mentioned, this Alolan Muck is the main thing stopping my Gengar from really doing too much in this battle. So we're both going to switch out here, as I brought in my Cobalion. He makes a good switch out into his Gliscor, most likely expecting this. And unfortunately, because I am rocking the Fightinium Z set, this was actually a very old Cobalion set that I hadn't. This was a Cobalion in general that I hadn't used in a while, and I really wanted to use it. That's actually why it's shiny. But I am gonna go ahead and switch out here, as he makes another good play there. Expects me to switch out as I bring in my Mega Aerodactyl. Ice Fang has become a little bit more common on Mega Aerodactyl as of lately, but I was hoping that maybe he would still try to stay in, expecting me to not have it, or maybe not knowing that I would have it. So I do decide just to go straight for the Ice Fang this turn after Mega Evolving. Honestly, he doesn't really have too many good switch-ins to this Aerodactyl. Like, yeah, he could have maybe brought in the Scizor here, but after getting off some prior damage on it, I might have been able to severely weaken it with the Stone Edge. And then at that point, the Roost is very obvious, so I could have taken full advantage of that and probably switched back into my Cobalion and then forced out Scizor as I went for a Swords Dance or something along those lines. So I will be able to a KO the Seismitoad, which is really good because now that is one less bulky mon I have to be worried about. As in comes the Scizor. Unfortunately, I'm going to get dropped by a Bullet Punch, and I do still have use for my Mega Aerodactyl. If anything, I can still try to Pursuit Trap the Latios in the back, or I can try to catch the Gliscor with an Ice Fang. So I do make the safe switch here back into my Cobalion. If he did go for the U-turn there, he might have risked me having something like the Fire Fang, but Bullet Punch in there I think was definitely his best play that he could have made. And out of this entire match, this was, I think, the one turn that I really regret. This was the one turn that, after rewatching it, I'm still thinking, like, why did I do this? There's realistically no reason for me to have done this, and this was just a really huge misplay on my part, honestly. So yeah, as I mentioned, all out pummeling, this was a bit of an older Cobalion. So most Cobalions nowadays that I've seen run the Steelium Z, I think just for Gliscor. So what I should have done this turn was actually gone for the Sword Zans. That way, when Gliscor came in, I would have been at +2, and depending on how much damage exactly I was doing with the Iron Head, I might have been able to beat this Gliscor 1v1, and then there was always a chance that I could have got a flinch with my Iron Head. So essentially what I should have done was Sword Zans, Iron Headed first, and then gone for my Z move the following turn, and then that way I might have been able to beat this Gliscor in the end. So I go for my first Iron Head there, which actually does a really good chunk of damage. So this next turn, if I can get a little lucky in my favor, I will be able to knock him out here, which, I mean, it is 30%. 30% is actually a pretty solid chance to happen. If I got the flinch there, that would have been absolutely amazing, because getting rid of this Gliscor would have been good for me in the long run, because this thing could be a giant thorn in my side depending on how he plays it. But at this point, because it is so low, I'm thinking that he's gonna just try and sack it off. I have Stealth Rocks up. At this point, I don't expect him to have Defog on this Gliscor, but he is actually gonna switch out here and hope to try and save the Gliscor, maybe to be able to roost up on my Amoonguss later in this match. Or if my Azumarill was choice, then if he expected him to be choice in something that wasn't Aqua Jet, he could maybe try to roost up, like if I was locked into knockoff or something. But I am Assault Vested Azumarill though, so yeah, I would still be able to knock him out. Either way though, I'm going to switch here into my Amoonguss. Unfortunately, the way I brought an Amoonguss is screaming that I have HP Fire, but this Amoonguss doesn't carry Sludge Bomb, so I really felt like there was no other play for me to make in this scenario besides going for the Hidden Power Fire. Or do I Giga Drain? Actually, no, sorry. This is the turn after. I thought that he would expect me to go for Hidden Power Fire. That's why I went for the Giga Drain. And he just blindly goes for the Sword Zans there. I don't fully agree with that play, because if I had weakened the Scizor, like weakening the Scizor is going to be ultimately the best thing for me later in this match, because it's going to make it to where I can pick him off with an Aqua Jet, or I can knock him out a lot easier with my Seismitoad. So this is the turn that I do go for the Hidden Power Fire, thinking, okay, if he's really willing to risk Scizor here, I will go for the Hidden Power Fire. And this is me getting back to what I said earlier, like, I don't have Sludge Bomb, so if I were to predict him to switch out there, it really wouldn't have benefited me anyway. So Hidden Power Firing there, I really felt like I lost nothing in doing so. And even if he tried to bring in the Primarina, that wouldn't have been too big of an issue. Plus, there was always a chance that I could have just gone for the Giga Drain right off the bat again. And his Gliscor is super low after rocks, and the Alolan Muck is still asleep, so Alolan Muck still has to burn a turn of sleep, which means I could use that free turn to my advantage. So I believe he ended up going for the Calm Mind to get here. Like, this dude is just taking any, I wouldn't say he's taking any opportunity, but he's just being aggressive with the setups essentially. So I bring in my Mega Aerodactyl in hopes that he would actually try to switch out here, because this Latios could prove to be a giant issue along with that Gliscor if Gliscor is brought back up to full HP after a roost. And me pursue trapping Latios and getting rid of it is phenomenal for me, because at this point the only real big issue I have to deal with is the Scizor, and if I can keep up offensive pressure, I can try to prevent that Gliscor from just freely going for the Scald. So he does just Bullet Punch again. At that point, I was in Stealth Rock's range, so there was really no other play I could have made there, unless I wanted to save Aerodactyl and risk my Seismitoad taking some extra chip damage, which I really feel like I didn't need to do that in the first place. Either way though, I will just be able to fire off a Scald here. Unfortunately, I don't have the Earth Power on this Seismitoad. I know some run Earth Power or Earthquake, but this set is just a standard set of things like a knockoff, Scald, Toxic with the Stealth Rock. So I could have maybe gone for, actually no, I did knockoff, sorry. I thought I went for Scald, but there was no reason for him to stay in there, because he should have switched out. Plus, by going for the knockoff, I might have been able to knock off the item on the Alolan Muck, which is most likely the Assault Vest, which means my Gengar will be able to hit it for a little bit more damage. So he does end up going for the Moonblast here, doing a little bit of damage to me. Doesn't do entirely too much, and I don't really lose anything in just going potentially for the Giga Drain here, but I am actually going to double out into my Seismitoad on the off chance that he did try to bring in his Alolan Muck to try and waste a turn of sleep. Also, by doubling into my Seismitoad, I could have potentially caught the incoming Scizor and then fired off a Scald in that scenario for free and potentially burn that, or maybe burn the Primarina on the switch in. But he does actually decide to switch into his Gliscor, most likely trying to sack it off. Thankfully, he does not go for the Roost here. If he did go for the Roost, that would have been extremely annoying because I don't think I actually would have been able to knock him out if he was a very Spadef bulky set. But he actually opts to go for the Toxic, which isn't entirely too bad. Like, my Toad isn't going to be staying in for too many turns at a time, so this Toxic, I'm hoping, is not going to be as big of an issue. As in comes the Primarina. Even though I did knock off its choice specs, it still has an amazing special attack stat, and I am unfortunately weak to the Psychic here. So he goes for the Psychic, does, I believe, like 100 points of damage there. So if that had been a really high roll and I was able to live on a low roll, this is where the Spadef drop might have mattered. But if you would have been able to kill me anyways, then that Spadef drop doesn't end up changing anything at all. As I will try to bring in my Gengar here. Unfortunately, I am Scarfed Gengar, so there's not really a good move in this scenario that I can really lock myself into. My only hope is that he's going to try to bring in the Muck here and not feel aggressive and bring in the Scizor, because I didn't want to risk Shadow Ball not knocking out the Primarina when I knew Sludge Wave would have been able to knock him out, and I'm able to get off a decent little bit of damage on the Alolan Muck here as he tries to Pursuit Trap me, but he still has to burn that first initial turn of sleep. So I was pretty safe there to just switch out and bring back in my Toad, as I believe this turn I really lose nothing in just going straight for the knockoff. I think ultimately that's going to be my better play, and I actually ended up pulling a double switch here. Why did I do this? I think I might have expected him to bring in the Primarina. Yeah, because the knockoff, I guess, was pretty obvious there. I feel like I forgot 2 turns of this battle. I'm sorry, guys. And I just rewatched this right before I started narrating this, and I completely drew a blank there. My bad, guys. My bad. But yeah, I guess I pulled a double switch there, expecting him to bring in the Primarina, thinking that I would go for the knockoff, and then that way I could potentially pick up another KO. As in comes the Scizor. This thing is a humongous terror at this point, and if I want to have some chance of winning here, I need to hope that he doesn't go straight for the U-turn, because him not going straight for the U-turn means that next turn my Seismitoad can go for the Scald, and if I'm able to burn this thing, then that means I should be able to still win with my Gengar in the back. Although I also have to hope that the Alolan Muck does not wake up on the first turn. So yeah, even though odds aren't too good against me, I can still probably win here, but he ends up going for the U-turn, unfortunately outspeeding me, and I think it might have been a speed tie because I think I outsped him earlier. Either way though, going for Scald here is still definitely my best play, because I still catch the Alolan Muck on the switch in. I can still potentially live Toxic and just try to apply a little bit more pressure to him by going for the Scald, and normally Alolan Muck don't run Shadow Sneak in the UU tier, so getting off this extra bit of damage with the Scald is super nice, because now he should definitely be in range of where my Gengar can come in and knock him out with the Shadow Ball. The only issue though now is that he still has the Scizor in the back, which depending on how much bulk he is exactly running, I still can knock him out with the Shadow Ball if I'm able to live a Bullet Punch. So I end up knocking out the Muck there, as in comes the Scizor, and the match pretty much comes down to whether or not I'm able to finish him off after potentially living a Bullet Punch. And because he is bulky, I do take 1 hit, and then I get the Cursed Body, and because of the Cursed Body, I end up winning this battle. And I'll be 100% honest with you guys, I would have uploaded this win or loss. I feel like I didn't play as well as I could have in this game, but regardless, I was still able to make it really close, and Kyle played very, very well. And then at that moment, getting that Cursed Body Axe was just so crazy, man. And again, it's 30%. It's the same as Scald burning, same as getting a paralysis with like Thunder, and flinching with Iron Head. So just those 30%, man, just really coming in clutch there, and Gengar ultimately being able to come out on top at the end of it all. So yeah, very fun and good game to Kyle. Hopefully y'all did enjoy the crazy battle. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button down below and answer the comment question of the day. With that being said, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, evening, night, afternoon, whenever you are watching this, and I will see y'all tomorrow. So later.
No matter where you're at, I'm not here to make friends, it's time to attack and deplete your HP with a final smash. Don't make me turn around and pull a 6-foot hacks. 6 foot hacks, yeah. 6 foot hacks, yeah. 6 foot hacks,